Let's discuss the progressive movement and what happens from here on out with the two-time loss of Bernie Sanders, once to Hillary Clinton. Now we know that one was kind of, a little shady business going on, but this next one to Joe Biden, which was just a clear trouncing. Bernie has a ceiling and he can't break that ceiling. It's around 37, 38% or so, it seems, from the polls. He didn't gain any new support in 4 years. Young people aren't going to vote, so it doesn't matter what you're trying to do with the young people to get them out to the polls. It's not going to work. And what do we do from here? Now, I don't really consider myself a progressive. I don't like labels too much. I just want to talk about the issues, and I'll tell you where I stand on each issue. And based on where I stand on each issue, I'm not really sure I would fall into the neatly confined progressive box. But there are a few things that they push that I agree with. Let's take the biggest component of Bernie's campaign was Medicare for All. Now, Medicare for All is probably better than what we currently have, right? But depending on how it's worded in the polling, it gets very different support depending on how the question is worded on whether or not you support Medicare for All. So it's very hard to really gauge on if the general public really wants a complete government takeover of their healthcare and they want zero ability to buy private insurance. Now, my standing would be no. There should be a base level line of care that everyone should get regardless of their income level, and they can afford to pay for it from the government. Yes. I mean, if pretty much every other industrialized democracy around the world can do it, we can do it. But should there be a complete outlaw of private health insurance companies if people want to spend more in certain areas to get private health insurance to have added on features that they can get? No, I don't think so. And I don't think people who have what they like about their insurance at the moment want to be forced off and then get into something that they have no option on. That just doesn't sit well with some people. Whether or not that option is going to be better for them, they don't know, right? You don't really know until the switch happens. So you're fearful, especially if perhaps if you have kids and they're on the insurance and you like the insurance plan you currently have, which I understand is few people, but there are some people out there. And the way that it's worded on the polling, a lot of that depends on if people are for it or against it. So it's very hard to gauge. Next is obviously the climate. I mean, the climate is really just I really don't understand why in this country it's politicized the way it is. One side is clearly right on it. The other side is clearly just bananas, batshit crazy on it. So I'm all for the climate. I'm not really for the Green New Deal, though. There's too many restrictions and provisions in that would hinder the economy, if not, in the long term, but definitely in the short term. But the climate itself has to be a major priority. And, it's not a major priority to the current administration. And then next, another big component of Bernie's, plan was the free college tuition, basically making the next 4 years of higher learning publicly funded. Completely agree with this one too. But if you're going to do this, you also have to do this for vocational and trade schools too, because not everyone wants to go to a 4-year college and not everyone's cut out to go to a 4-year university. So we have to, figure out how we're going to do that as well. But overall, I think what it came down to for a lot of voters as to why they're not voting for Bernie is Bernie and the way these policies are packaged. the way they're presented, how he calls himself a democratic socialist. That's not going to fly. First of all, he's more of a social democrat. They're two similar terms, yes, but they're very clearly defined differently. Just do a quick Google search. But if you go around calling yourself a democratic socialist, that's not going to play well with a lot of people. If you're kind of nuanced and you throw in the whole, Cuba had a literacy program, that's not going to play well with Cubans in Florida. And Florida is a major state that you have to win. If you have these toxic people, at your rallies and introducing you at rallies, like the latest imam he had the other day, or Linda Sarsour. I mean, you can't associate with these people if you consider yourself to be on the liberal side of politics. They're not liberal. They're awful for your movement. They're awful for gaining moderate, reasonable people to come in and vote for you and support you. What else do we have? The fact that he took a honeymoon in communist Russia, the fact that he said some things praising Russia. These aren't good looks, my man. These aren't good looks. They may not be what he's about, and they're not, but they're not good ways to present yourself to the general American public. They're just not. And I don't know the riddle of why he can't get black support, but he can't get it. It's pretty mind-boggling at this point, because he just cannot get it. And you're never gonna win the Democratic nominee, let alone the presidency, if you don't have one of the largest voting blocks of the Democratic Party, which is the black vote. It's never going to happen. So some of these package policies need to be packaged different. They need to be presented different. And the progressive movement is just going to need a better candidate. They're going to need someone who doesn't say the things about Cuba or Russia that he did, who presents himself in a different light, who champions capitalism but understands that crony capitalism is doing nothing but hurting capitalism. Who's probably a little younger. That is what it's going to take to reinvigorate this movement and allow them to compete with the Democratic establishment, and allow them to win over voters who are more moderate, more center left. Bernie's just not. He's obviously not capable of doing it, and I'm tired of hearing the excuses from the just fervent Bernie supporters who won't just accept defeat. I mean, sometimes you just lose, right? It's been 2 terms now. He hasn't grown his support. He still hasn't got black vote support. Something's not right. Something's not right.